All right, guys, so welcome to Stretch and Recover. Today, we are focusing on lower back, right, and everything that has to do with lower back. So we're going to start off by addressing some of the main issues that come up with the lower back, right? When we do deadlifts, squats, sometimes lunges, or maybe some core work, that's usually when our lower back starts to hurt. Well, the issue isn't that your lower back is hurting. The issue is that your lower back is compensating. Your lower back is doing all, if not most, of the work that your core should be doing. So the reason why that happens is because you just might not be in a good enough mobility position to be able to properly activate your core. Therefore, the lower back kicks in as your easy way out. So what we're doing today isn't to strengthen your back or anything like that. We're going to free the hip complex and put it in a position that allows you to properly engage your core. Okay. Now, one of the first things that I do when I usually do a screening or I train somebody is I try to see if they can even activate their core, period. Okay. Because if you can't activate your core and put yourself in a position to activate your core, then I know I need to first address that in order to get you ready for any other type of big movements, okay? So the first thing I want you to do is everybody's gonna go ahead and lie down on the ground, okay? And I'm gonna show you guys from a lateral position here. And then what I want you to do is I want you to focus on just kind of relaxing your head. My feet are flat on the ground, right? Knees are gonna be bent there. And in that natural lying position, what you're gonna notice is that there's a natural curve to the spine. Like your lower back, your lumbar spine is not completely flush to the mat or to the ground, okay? And that's okay. That's the natural curvature of the spine. That's normal, right? But what happens is, I want to know if you guys can even get yourself in a position to properly activate the core. So what you need to do is you need to teach yourself how to get rid of that space between your lower back and the ground. Okay, so what it is called a posterior pelvic tilt. What you're going to do is shift your hips, and now you're going to push your lower back into the ground. Automatically, you should feel your core engage. Automatically, right? Now, if you have a hard time getting into that position, we're going to address that in a little bit. Okay, but how do we test to see if our core can actually work? Once you can do that, you know that you can flatten out your lower back, shift the hips back. Okay, so then what I want to do is we would want to bring the legs out, maybe say up, keeping your lower back nice and flat. Lower them down as far as you can keep that position, and then just hold there. Okay, so my lower back is dug into the ground, and now I'm fighting, right, gravity with the weight of my legs. So that's going to activate and work my core there. Now, if you can't do that, or if you feel your hip flexors, right, the top part of your thighs start to tighten up or cramp up on you, right, that's something else that we're going to address as well. But let's go for about 30 to 45 seconds. Okay, so I want everybody to take a rest real quick, bring your feet down. I'm going to time everyone. When I say go, you're going to go ahead and bring your feet up, making sure that your lower back is completely flat against the ground. You're pushing your lower back into the ground, and we're going to hold that position for about 30 to 45 seconds. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1, and go. Bring them up and hold. You should feel this all in your core. Continue to press your lower back into the ground as hard as you can. And squeeze your core, squeeze your core. Three, 2, 1, and relax. All right, so that was about 35 seconds right there. All right, now I want you to raise your hand if you felt it in your thighs, the top of your legs. Raise your hand if you felt it there. Anybody? No? Good. Raise your hand if you felt it. So the shaking's normal. What about if you felt it in your core? Did anyone feel it in their core? All right, that's the obvious one. All right, did anyone feel it in the lower back? Yes, Lindsay, in the lower back. Okay, so the good thing is that I don't think anybody said they felt it in their thighs, so that's going to be good. So now I'm going to show you guys essentially what we did from a kneeling position. All right, so basically what we did is, now we have to understand how the hip works, right? You see that curvature of my spine here, right? Essentially what I did is I shifted the hips and I rotated from here and I rotated this way. So you see that shift of there to there in the hips. All I'm really doing is squeezing my glutes, right? And that's gonna take, it's gonna, like I'm tucking my hips, my butt underneath, and now my back is a lot flatter. So that's essentially what I did on the ground, right? So your main focus now is, so now we have an understanding of how to activate when we're on the ground. Why? Because we have that kinesthetic awareness. We have that sensation of feeling the mat touch our ground. What about when there's nothing to touch? There's nothing to feel back here. Can you still imitate that same position? So if I'm doing a tall kneeling press, can I activate my core as if I was doing a plank, like I was just doing, or if I was just doing a hollow hold? Like that's the big misconception there, or the big disconnect. That I can press and maintain that position and not just you go back into that extension position and all of a sudden my back's taking over, my core is off. So you got to learn how to do it here. You got to learn how to do it here. You got to learn how to do it sitting, standing, like in all positions. But if you're feeling it in your lower back, the chances are you're not, your back is like so locked up that it's either preventing you from getting into that posterior tilt, right? Or you may have a hip imbalance that when you're on the ground doing that position, your lower back just takes over. Or the other thing is you're hindered, and this might be you, Lindsay, you're hindered from going into that full tilt for whatever reason. That full tilt is what locks in and keeps the back out of it and just gets everything on the core. So there's a series of stretches that we're going to do to kind of go through and get your position, get your body in a good position to properly feel everything. I can see C-section. Well, there's that too. That's obviously, that's a whole different can of worms there. But there are some stretches that you can still do to help alleviate and teach yourself or relearn, rewire how to activate your core. Okay, so the first one we're going to do is we're going to go into a tall kneeling stretch here. Okay, now I love this stretch here. This is probably one of my favorite stretches just because I run a lot and I tend to get locked up here. Okay, now what you're going to notice is I have my toe dug into the ground, my foot up tall, 90 degrees on both sides, right? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive my hip forward, right? Maintain this position. I'm not going to lean back and do this. I'm going to just drive my hip forward. You see how my kind of entire body starts to go with it? And I'm keeping that tall position, okay? You're going to feel that nice big pull right in here. Maybe go down depending on how tight or loose you are, right? And you're going to go ahead and drive out of that, okay? And you're going to just kind of pulse in and out. Each time you breathe, you're going to exhale, go forward, and then as you inhale, you come back. I would say to do that for about 2 minutes on each side, right? But just for time's sake here, let's do 10. Let's do 10 reps going forward and then coming back. 10 times forward, 10 times back. Now, when you're done with the 10, I want you to don't move. Stay on that same side. Good. Okay, now after you get your 10, all right, now I changed my position now. You guys can see me from an anterior view from the front side. Okay, this is where I was doing that stretch. I was right here. So now what I'm gonna do with this front leg, watch here, I'm gonna take it out a little bit wider, okay? And so now as I come forward, as I bring my hips towards you, towards the computer, watch what I do, right? I'm gonna shift and come across. And now you're getting the hip flexor, but on the inside part of the hip and that groin area, right? Here, and you bring it back in. Exhale, hip going forward, and then you're shifting over here. So now you should feel that either all on the inside or maybe the top inner part here. There you go. And same thing, we're gonna do 10. All right, and then we're gonna finish up with the outer part now. So I'm gonna keep that wide position, and now I'm gonna do the same thing, come forward. This time the other hand's gonna come across, and I'm gonna go the other way. Okay, so now you're just bringing the other hand across. Good thing on that side. Okay, now let's go do the same thing on the other side. I'll let you guys do these at your own pace. 10 forward, going regular, forward and back, and 10 on the inner, 10 on the outer. Just remember, guys, don't lean back when you're doing this because you're just going to make your lower back worse. Keep your core engaged as you're driving hip. That's important too. So as you're driving forward, you're keeping the core engaged. Don't just let the core just like do whatever it wants to do. Keep it engaged, keep it tight. If you have to have your hand here to make sure, that's fine. Just don't find yourself losing it. Once you feel like you lose, you feel like your rib cage, you can really feel that rib cage come in. That's when you know you're not really activating the core because you're in that extension position. Okay. Good. All right. Now, the next progression would be, and you don't have to do this today, you don't have to do this right now, but the next progression would be to use something to elevate that back leg. Okay. And we would just be taking it a step further. So on this here, what I would do is I would go here, and I would go through one more series of that stretch, now at an elevated position. Okay, so now that you're loosened up, now I'm gonna go drive forward, and now you really get everything out of there. Okay, now you don't have to do this one now, but this would be like the next step. So I'd have you do all three on each side, and then we would go into that one, and that one would really loosen you up. Okay, and now we can go back and we can retest. Okay, so let's just, for time's sake, again, we're just gonna go back and retest now because we did a lot already. Okay, we're gonna come right back into that position, and you're just gonna feel like you have maybe a little more freedom going into that posterior tilt, able to activate the core and really shift the hips back a little bit because now your hip flexors aren't pulling you. All right, so let's go in another 40, let's go 45 seconds this time. Holding it, bring the legs up, and just focus on activating the core. Okay, I don't care if your legs are straight up in the air. I just want you to focus on squeezing your core. Here we go, 3, 2, 1, go. 3, 2, 1, and relax. All right, Lindsay, how was that? A little bit better. Okay, good. That's what you need. Like so. All right. So now that we've identified, okay, what you need to do, and the reason why your lower back. Let me give you guys now. Let's go to the back side. Let's actually focus on the back a little bit. Okay. So we have a series of muscles on either side of the spine that kind of help and act as a bracing system. The core is like naturally like that's your body's biggest, like that's your biggest stabilizer is your core. So your core, there's a saying, like there's a rule of thumb is your core should always be engaged in everything you do, like sitting, driving, like to stand up, like all these little things that you should have your core engaged that we don't even think about. Like we don't even give it two thoughts throughout the day. Okay. But another part that can hinder your core activation would be your hamstrings. And we don't really pay attention to hamstrings a lot because if the hamstrings are tight, they're also not going to allow you to shift the hips and the positions that we want them to do. So the hamstrings is another one that we want to look into. But we're going to kind of get a combination of the hamstrings right now and the lower back. So we go immediately to kind of loosening up the hamstrings right into a quick little lower back stretch. And then you guys will see the difference in just the freedom that you have. So the first thing you're going to do is we're going to lie back on the ground again. Okay. And we're just going to use my right side first. Okay. I'm going to grab my right knee either from the top, or if you want to grab from underneath behind it, and you're just going to pull it up as high as you can. Now this other leg here is going to be straight on the ground, keeping it flat. All right, go ahead and relax your head and just pull that leg up, that knee all the way in your chest as far as you can. Keep breathing, keep breathing. You probably feel that in your hamstring, kind of where your hamstring attaches there with your glutes. You can kind of feel that stretch and just keep driving up as far as you can. And then if you guys, I don't know if you guys notice what I'm doing. I'm not just pulling straight up. I'm also pulling down to the side. So if you guys look at it from here, right, I'm pulling it up, but then I'm coming out to the side as well. And that's just going to get further into that hamstring. So the higher up you can pull, the better. So just keep pulling on it. And you'll just notice as you give yourself a little bit of time and control your breaths, it's going to start to just slowly loosen up and you can just go deeper into that position. Okay, now what I want to do here is I'm going to bring my right arm here, right, on the outside. I'm going to bring it out to the side. Then my left hand's going to come on the outside of that right knee, and I'm just going to pull it across. Very simple here, okay? Now, I'm only going to go as far as I can maintain my shoulder on this side touching on the ground. So the moment that shoulder comes off, that's it. You've gone too far. Go back, get that shoulder relaxed. And the goal is to try to slowly let the lower back loosen up, right? Let those muscles kind of just open up. And this will tell you if you're tight on one side as opposed to the other. So if you've ever been wondering if you have maybe a hip imbalance, which a lot of us do, it's nothing that's bad. Easy fixes as well, right? This will kind of expose that to you and show you that you do. But once you get here, you got to breathe, control each breath, and you'll notice that knee starts to slowly drop further and further down as you start to loosen everything up here. Now, some of you guys might be able to get your knee all the way to the ground on this side. Some of you guys might not. As long as that shoulder stays on the ground, though, that's the most important part. Because you're not only stretching through the lower back, you're stretching through your lats, your thoracic spine. You're getting a lot of stuff here. This is a really good stretch. I love to do this one. And normally I'd say 2 minutes, but let's go ahead and switch sides now. Okay, now you're going to grab your other knee, and now we're going to pull that one all the way up as high as you can. Make sure that that other leg is flat on the ground. All right, now you're gonna bring your left arm out to the side. Your left arm goes here to the side on the ground. Right arm comes at the outside of that knee. And now you're gonna pull that knee all the way across. And go only as far as that shoulder touches the ground. Now, do you notice that this side might feel either tighter or looser, depending on who you are? Like for me, I can feel like this one goes closer to the ground. My knee's almost touching. And that just will tell you that on what side you have your imbalance. Hold that there. We'll go for about 30 more seconds. All right, guys. And then from there, we can sit on up. Now, I had meant to go over this from the beginning, but one of the best things you can do when you sustain an injury, and I don't mean like a serious injury, but like let's say you kind of, they call it tweak your spine, right? You hear that word like, oh, I tweak my back a little bit. Well, think about that as the same in reference of like a water hose, you know, like kinking a water hose. You can bend a water hose pretty far, right? But once it gets past that point and it kinks, you lose all that water supply going out. Well, same thing with your back, right? There's so many nerves that run through your central nervous system that once you extend too far or you put too much tension on the back, it kind of kinks. So what do you do when the water hose kinks is you elongate it, right? You allow it to open up. Well, we have the same kind of reference when it comes to the spine. We call it spinal decompression. And there's a really cool way to do it at home. If you just feel like your back is tight, what I would do before you do anything, before you start to turn and twist and any rotation, I would decompress your spine. And there's a very easy way to do this. All you will need is literally like you can use a pillow, a blanket, a towel, anything, and you just have to have a wall somewhere up tall. So what you would do, and I can even use the foam roller here, and I'll show you guys. It depends on where you're feeling it, but usually I would go. As a matter of fact, I won't even use a foam roller. I'll just use one of these mats here. Okay, so what I would do is I would get the mat here, double fold it a couple times, right, and then right where the edge part is, right here, right in the edge part, that is going to go right on like where your tailbone meets your spine. That's where you would put it, right? And I'm going to fold it an extra time just so you guys can see what it does. Okay, and so right where my tailbone meets, and I'm going to go right here, right? And so what it's doing is it's manually putting me into that posterior tilt, right? It's manually putting me in position for my core to activate. So by doing this, you start to just decompress the spine because the body kind of recognizes when I'm in this position, my core is going to do the work and my back just needs to relax. And so that's how those two go hand in hand. When you're activating the core, you're going to get in this position no matter what, but you're putting yourself in this position, right? This is just you manually getting yourself here and just now allowing yourself to stay in that position without actually having to really work for it. So from right here, right, my lower back is just slowly starting to decompress. It's starting to elongate. Any of that tension or that trauma is going to just slowly start to alleviate. Now, this is not a fix. This is not like a fix all. This will get you mobile, right? If your lower back is hurting you, to be able to do all of your twist and rotate and stuff, because there's a lot more that you can do, right, when it comes to your lower back, but you have to make sure that you address the issue first. So I always say spinal decompression is like the first go-to, especially if you feel like you've like tweaked it, like you really, and if it's still hurting after you've done this, and if it doesn't go away, then you've probably seriously injured yourself. That's when you need to go to a doctor. Don't try to push through it. Okay. So we're going to go back to the, getting the lower back prepped and ready. But I wanted to make sure I addressed that for you guys, just so that way you understood that you can kind of self-care and self-identify what's going on. And if it still hurts after that, then you know that you did something a little more serious. Now, obviously, you would want to have your feet up against a wall as well, so your legs are resting up against it, right? I kind of didn't have a wall here, but you kind of get what I was saying. So you guys can use a wall, okay? And that usually will get you in a mobile enough position to be able to now do some stretching and do some mobilizing to get your hips and everything loosened up, okay? So the next one I want to do is a combination stretch here. We're going to go into a nice wide stretch. We call this the frog stretch, but then we're going to take it a step further, right? The frog stretch, we go here, but what you're going to do is, as I drive forward, I'm going to bring my hips down to the ground, and you see what I'm doing with my right leg here, how I'm kind of dropping it and going here. Well, I'm actually thrusting my hips down into the ground. My elbows are keeping me secure here, and I'm thrusting my hips down, and I'm getting like a hip flexor stretch essentially. But by rotating and getting that leg out there, okay, I'm going to get deeper into it. And then I'm going to come back into my frog stretch, which essentially is just you going from here and then just taking your butt back to your heels. Okay, now keep in mind the inside part of your feet need to be flat on the ground. You can't have your toes inside. See how my feet are flat here? Inside part of my foot is flat. So I'm going to drive back, get my butt to my heels. I can feel that stretch inside. And each time I come back down, I'm going to take one leg and just externally rotate right in there. Okay, and then I'll bring it back down, take my butt back. As I come through, this side will go. So I'm not just dropping the hip, but you see what I'm doing with this foot. I'm trying to bring that foot as far up as I can. And then I'll bring it back down, take my hips back again. So this is like a combination stretch here, but it does a lot of good here. And then I would say every 5 or 6 reps, try to widen out your knees a little bit more. I'll let you guys do that for about a minute or so. Good, looks good. All right, guys, now come on up. All right, so now we've done maybe 3-4 different mobility exercises minus the spinal decompression. So now we're gonna go back to home base, right? Let's go back to retest. Okay, so now we come back on the backs again. Go to where we're at now. For Lindsay, for you, I want your modification to be from here to here. You're just gonna bring the knees in. Okay, because the more extension you have in your core, the more pull you're going to get. So now that you're going to be in here, you can still maintain that position here, right? Just focus on squeezing your core. Everybody else, you're going to go legs extended straight up. All right, we're going to hold. I'm not going to tell you guys how long we're going to go. I'm just going to have you guys go. And I want you, if you're shaking, that's good. Someone said they were shaking before. That's exactly what I want. You should be squeezing your core so hard that you're shaking. Okay, get set. Legs up. Core tight. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Engage. All your focus and attention is on keeping your lower back completely flat, pushing into the ground or the mat. We're going to take it a step further. Everybody bring your arms up here, straight up in the air. Okay. And now keeping your head on the ground, I want you to reach your arms up like if you're trying to reach for the ceiling. And now you're going to engage even more. Reach, reach, reach. Come on, I want to see some more shaking. Let's go, guys. Three, two, one, and relax. That was just a little longer. That was like a minute 4 seconds. It's nothing. Okay, but you guys see how that little position right there got the upper part activated a lot more. And for you, for Lindsay, that might have been a better thing because now you're activating the entire wall rather than just focusing on that lower half where the C-section was. You know, so now you're getting everything, the entire abdominal wall. So that's the idea, guys, is again, it's like the one point I wanted to get across today. It's not your lower back. It's your lack of core strength or core activation. Because everybody has core strength in some sense, right? In some fashion. Some of us can only hold it for 30 seconds. Some of us can only hold it for, so we need to build it up. And that's something that you guys can practice on your own, but you have to stay diligent with it. Just like with anything else. You think I just picked up a baseball and started throwing it as hard as I can, and all of a sudden it just worked? Like, no, I had to work on that craft for years. You think I just started getting muscles just because one day I decided, you know, that's something I want to do, and then the next day I had muscles? No, you have to work on these things for years. So if you want to continue to have back issues, then don't do this. Don't practice this. But if you're tired of it and you want to address the issue and fix the problem, you have to practice, just like with everything else. So the tools are all given to you here on these little Sunday seminars that we have, but you got to make sure you're applying them and doing them on your own. So that's why I try to go over little bits and pieces at a time. If I just sit here and go over the entire body, you're going to forget. So my hope is that you can take, something small that maybe you identify with, and you can practice until you get it. Build a goal. Same thing that we do with our fitness goals. Build a goal with your core and say, I need to be able to hold this position for 3 minutes straight. Maybe, I don't know, and then start to work towards that. But again, we go through different series. We've gone through an upper body series. We've gone through just the hips without even touching the lower back. We've gone through the chest complex. We've gone through the back, the neck. I mean, we've really touched a lot of different areas. And I like being able to go through different body parts in this series, because these are issues that you guys normally deal with. Now, what I want to go over next week is we're going to go back to the knees. Okay, we're going to go right back down to the knees, because that's been a problem area. And then we'll go back up towards the shoulders and just attack them differently. So make sure you guys are tuning in each Sunday. I'm going to continue to do these as long as we're doing as long as we're not in the gym, basically. I'll keep doing this stuff, because these are conversations I normally have with my members on a one-on-one basis. As they have these injuries, we can address them. But since we can't do that anymore, I can address multiple. I can address the mass here. So that's all we're going to go for today, guys. Just remember what we went through from top to bottom. We started off with hip flexor or couch stretch complex, if you want to. That's kind of what you would consider that. And the reason why you call it couch stretch is because when you put your foot up, normally you'd have it there on a couch. I guess that's how they started it. So I'll just leave it at that. So we went through couch stretch complex, and that was going to be the 3 ways there. And then from there we went into we retested, right? And that's really good, is you have to constantly retest. And then we went into what did we go into? The leg crossover. I don't have names for these. I just do them. And then you retest again. And then we finished up with, I guess the spinal decompression would be the last one. Oh, the other one we did is frog stretch. So it's really only 3 of them. And then retest. So I would say start off doing and by the way, that position where you're down here, it's called a dead bug, right? So that dead bug position, that's what the name of it is, because it's like you're a dying bug or a dead bug, legs up. So that's what you guys would be going through, okay? So couch, or do dead bug, start it, you know, and then go through couch, or I'd say start off, do your couch stretch complex, and then you go to your dead bug test. Then you go back to leg crossovers, get that full stretch, hamstrings into your you know, thoracic spine, lats, all that stuff. Then you retest. Then you go into frog stretch, and then you retest with that dead bug position, right? And then once you start to get the dead bug and it feels fine, challenge yourselves, right? Because guess what? We don't do all of our core stuff on our back. We do a lot of it in the plank position. So your battle there is now, how do you activate and get yourself in the same position without your lower back being on the floor? I mean, it's actually kind of simple. You squeeze your butt, and now my lower back is going to be flat, just as if I was lying down, if I was in a prone position or a supine position, sorry. All right, so practice. Keep getting better at these. We're going to start uploading these to YouTube, so you guys will have these to look back on. They finally showed me how to do that, so I could go ahead and have it available for you guys at any time, which is really cool. So we'll be getting more people in this week. I think I wasn't sure if I was going to do it because I just did weigh-ins for all my Fit and 42ers, but every Sunday we'll get back on it and hopefully get some more people in next week. You guys have any questions about certain specific topics you want me to cover? Reach out to me personally. Send me a message on Facebook or anything, and I'll make sure to cover those at one point. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I'll see you guys next Sunday. All right, see you later.